Morning, everyone. As folks are coming into our session this morning, we thank you for your time. Thank you for considering joining this AARP event. Um, my name is Antoine Cook. I'm an associate director for AARP here in the California State Office, and we are glad that you have decided to join us this morning for this very important conversation around healthy living. Today's session is, as you can see on your screen right now, Move More, Age Stronger. This is a healthy living series that we're doing with a woman that we've been working with for some years now, Nurse Alice Benjamin, who's from the LA area. Um, and I'm going to get out of the way so that Nurse Alice can really get into the meat of the workshop today. What I would like to do is ask if you can, in the chat, just drop in there where you are joining us from, what part of the state of California or the country that you are joining this workshop from. And this is a workshop hosted by the AARP Los Angeles Soul Steppers Walking Group, which meets every second and fourth Tuesday at 8 a.m. at the Crenshaw Family YMCA in the Crenshaw area of Los Angeles on Santa Rosalia and Marlton Avenue. 3620 Santa Rosalia Avenue in Los Angeles. And you can always join us. You can I do ask people to register beforehand because we have a little bit of a maximum capacity that we have to maintain. But as I mentioned, we meet every second and fourth Tuesday, 8 a.m. And these workshops that Nurse Alice Benjamin will be doing with us around healthy living and aging will be happening every fourth Tuesday at 10 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. 9:30 is when we meet at the Crenshaw Family YMCA in person. 10 a.m. are the ones like today on Zoom. So with all of that, I am going to completely get out of the way so that Nurse Alice can get started with the workshop. You probably saw a button because this session will be recorded and shared on our YouTube page, as well as a blog page that we're putting together for this Healthy Living series with Nurse Alice. Nurse Alice Benjamin, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And Antoine, thank you for that warm welcome. I'm Alice Benjamin. Many people know me as Nurse Alice, and I'm a family nurse practitioner and a clinical nurse specialist. And I'm going to be your guide today as we journey on to how to move more and age stronger. And I'm just really excited to be a part of this work with AARP and health and wellness because my mantra is I like to talk to people before they become my patients. And today, we're going to focus and center this on, you could say exercise, but I'm going to say movement. Movement, because this is, and joyful movement, purposeful movement, things that can help you age stronger, feel better, and live fully. Again, this is me, Alice Benjamin. I'm your navigator for today, longtime AARP volunteer and health and wellness advocate. And I literally love getting the chance to chat with y'all. So I want to encourage you. I'm gonna go through a presentation, but I definitely want to answer your questions, take those. And then if there's something that resonates with you, hey, feel free to mention that in the chat box so I can feel the energy as we do this virtually. So here on today's journey, this is what we're headed for. We're gonna explore the science of movement, understand what really happens in our bodies and minds as we age, and more importantly, what we can do about it. So by the end of this, my hope is that you will walk away, pun intended, feeling empowered and not overwhelmed. So again, here's kind of the agenda. Understanding mobility, brain muscle connection, because there is a connection, whether we know it or not. Also, some warning signs, things that you need to look out for. We're going to talk about some effective movement strategies because we may know that movement is important, but how can I do it if I have certain limitations, if my environment doesn't allow for exercise, or I just don't have, I don't have a gym. You don't need a gym, by the way. And then how to make this sustainable, because it's not about intensity, because a lot of people will get out there, will start doing it, but how can you remain consistent? Consistency is definitely the key with this. So exercise is more than movement. It's about mobility. And so this is fundamental to our overall well-being. So mobility isn't just about walking, it's really about preserving your independence, protecting your heart and your brain, and keeping you doing the things that you love. I'm always asked, what's the best exercise I could do, Nurse Alice? Well, it's the one you're going to do. It's the one you're going to enjoy. It's the one that you're going to be most consistent with. And so whether that's dancing, gardening, playing with your grandkids, or actually, getting on a treadmill or lifting some weights, whatever it is that you like to do, I just want you to move. So movement helps with a variety of things from sleep, energy, mood, and it's really the foundation of well-being. And you can see from the slide here, all of the benefits of mobility. Everyone wants to maintain as much independence as we can and maintain vitality as we age. We also want to continue to do the activities that we love to do, right? So I love gardening. Now listen, sometimes getting down on your knees to garden, it's easy to get down, but sometimes it's hard to get back up, right? So I want to preserve my ability to get up and down while I'm working in my garden. Definitely want to reduce chronic diseases like heart disease and diabetes, manage them if these are conditions that you already have, or put them off as long as possible by maintaining activity. We want to protect against age-related decline. Obviously, and inevitably, as we age, our muscles, our joints, stuff changes, right? Stuff changes whether we like it or not. But how can I preserve that movement? How can I maintain my strength, my endurance, my flexibility as I age? And then also, exercise does have a positive impact on your mental well-being and your cognitive health. And then improving our balance and reducing our risk of falls. That's something that's very important. And we definitely all want to be able to have a life where we have the energy we need to do the things we need to do in life, and then also sleep better. So movement can help with all of these things. So the mental health connection, let's talk about what movement does for the mind, because it definitely lifts your mood. It can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. It helps you sleep better and keeps your mind sharp. Physical activity is like hitting the reset button on your emotional and mental health. So I don't know, for those of you in the chat box, if you agree with me, go ahead and put some thumbs up or things in there. But when we exercise, when we have movement, our body utilizes energy, and that can make us tired, obviously, right? We get tired when we exercise, but that's a good expenditure of energy, which can help improve our sleep. And all of that activity can increase blood flow to our brain to improve our mental functioning, and it reduces stress through natural mood regulators. Now, there's a science to this, right? What's the science of mobility? Well, let's get to some things that are really important here. When you move, you're not just working your muscles, but you're impacting every system in your body. Every system, every cell is involved when you move and when you exercise. So regular movement actually lowers your risk of heart disease. So you can see cardiovascular health. We definitely want to reduce our risk of heart disease, stroke, and hypertension, especially as we age. It sharpens your memory, that cognitive function I was telling you about, right? So who knew, right? That physical activity, movement, mobility can actually support memory, right? It can improve your attention and all of the executive functions and those high level functions in our brain that we need to stay sharp. Also, emotional wellness. It enhances our mood through neurotransmitter balance. So there's definitely a connection with mobility and your emotional wellness. Now, I'll say this, and I think we talk about it a little bit later, but when we're sad, when we're depressed, when we're anxious, kind of the last thing we want to do is exercise or movement. But remember I said when we move, we're activating every cell in our body. So when we're activating every cell in our body, this actually can help. It doesn't get rid of the underlying issue, but in that moment, those natural endorphins that get released, it can be somewhat of a positive distraction, and it's healthy for our body. And it can actually, in the most simplest way I can say, is exercise can actually uh, battle anxiety and depression at the cellular level. And joint health. These knees, these hips, these joints, as we age, we lose our joints can become more stiff. Some people will lose some of the cartilage, and they will become like bone to bone. There are things that can happen in our joints which can limit our movement. And so when we have movement, it can actually lubricate and help improve our range of motion, right? Being able to really take those joints and move them to their fullest capacity as much as possible. And don't worry, even if you're limited now, regular consistent movement can actually improve that range. And then it can also help with pain management. Now, here are some statistics. So let's talk facts. So after the age of 30, adults lose 3 to 8% of muscle mass each decade. So just by simply as aging, it's like the clock is against us. Our muscle loss is happening. So how can I preserve that? How can I keep my muscles strong? Well, movement can help you with that. It also over 25% of adults age 65 or older experience a fall every year. Now, listen, I'm not 65, but I've fallen a couple of times. Some of that's mechanical fall, tripping over something, but whether it's mechanical or you're something in your balance that causes you to fall, movement can help us with the agility to kind of save ourselves from a fall as well. And then again, and I can't emphasize it enough, lower depression rates than those who are physically active. That it can really make a significant difference there. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the brain muscle connection. So movement does more, again, than strengthen your body. It actually kind of strengthens and enhances your brain. So uh, physical activity, it says here, can promote neuroplasticity. That's important. That's the brain's ability to form new neural connections and adapt throughout life. That's what's going to keep us sharp, attentive, be able to respond to crisis situations. There's really a lot that goes on in the brain that and maybe you all know, but just growing up, I always thought exercise is, being strong and having muscles and things like that. I never really thought about the brain, but as a healthcare provider, this is these are exercise, movement is going to be one of the first things that I prescribe when someone comes in with a particular complaint about, oh, I can't move as much, or I've fallen. Obviously there are lots of things to look at, but exercise is really one of should be your number one prescription for a lot of things here. And here's the reason why. When it comes to the brain muscle connection, it actually improves blood flow. So as we're exercising, our heart's beating faster. When our heart beats faster, that means there's more blood being pumped out to the rest of the body, and that includes the brain, right? So our brain gets oxygen-rich blood, which can support that cognitive function. So that's important. It also stimulates some other hormones that can promote growth of new brain cells. Now I know there's science, a lot of science about, oh, new brain cells can't grow, can grow, and there's this emerging science. But the truth is that our body does have the ability to grow and repair and rebuild itself. Now, the speed in which that happens, that's debatable, but however, it does happen. And so exercise can actually promote the growth of new brain cells. It also reduces inflammation and oxidative stress in the body. That's going to help decrease overall inflammation in our body, which puts us at risk for diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure, all of those things. Regulation of mood, reducing symptoms of anxiety and depression. I'm going to share this morning when I got up. I have my kids can sometimes be very stressful. And what I did is I went outside and I just took a walk around, probably maybe like, I don't know, 2 laps around my block. It wasn't a marathon or anything, but it got me out, fresh air, sunshine. I was able to hear the birds chirp, take in nature, and then also get in some exercise. And that definitely kind of reset my mood with how I'm going to handle these kids. But it's really helpful. And again, improving memory, problem solving skills. That's something. We talk a lot about word puzzles, and those are good too. Keeps the brain sharp, challenges the brain to think of new solutions for new problems. Well, exercising does the same thing. And again, our coordination and reaction time, which is going to help us reduce falls, prevent falls, and if you are falling, quickly be able to recover from the fall. Exercise, it's your brain's best friend. Movement. Now, movement, remember I said earlier, it's not necessarily about intensity, but it's about consistency. So regular movement. So it's great that you went out and exercise today, but what about tomorrow? Because your brain is going to get all this nice rich oxygen, rich blood. It's going to love it. And it's going to be like, okay, well, about the next day and the next day. So your brain can actually regenerate. It can improve cognitive function when it has that increased oxygenation to the brain every day. Supports neural connections, again, reduces inflammation in the brain. These chemicals are natural endorphins, the dopamine, the serotonin production. Our body wants that. It's a natural form of happiness. It can combat depression and anxiety, like I said earlier, and emotional balance. So I went for a walk this earlier today. I'll probably go for a little bit of a walk later. Because here's the thing, don't feel like exercise has to be like, oh, I have to go 1 hour, I have to go to a gym, and I have to sweat and stress my body out in order for it to be helpful, for me to get this movement that Nurse Alice is talking about. No, absolutely not. It just needs to be movement that you enjoy, movement that will be consistent. Those are the things that are most important when it comes to exercising. And I see some questions in the chat, and we're going to get to them in the next couple of slides, because some people do have difficulties with certain exercises, and we're going to talk about how to get around those things. But what I want to really talk about, because I think is underrated, is walking speed. So it's actually what we can consider almost like a vital sign and predictor of cognitive health, emotional well-being, and even longevity. And some people will even consider it like the sixth vital signs. We know, like blood pressure, heart rate, respirations, temperature, all of those things, like vital signs. When you go to your doctor's office, right, and they put you on the machine and they check your oxygenation. But what about your walking speed? Has anyone ever considered that? There's actually a lot of science that's out there that says that your gait speed, your walking speed, is a powerful predictor of your health outcomes and your neurological function. So now you don't have to answer in the chat box, but I want you to think to yourself and then talk amongst your family and friends. But how fast do you walk, right? The golden standard for maintaining a walking speed is about 2.2 miles per hour. Now, I know I'm not able to measure that when I'm actually walking, but if you ever get on a treadmill, you can set the speed to the treadmill at 2.2 miles per hour. See if you can walk that speed. If you can at least walk that speed for a few minutes of time, that's a good indicator, and it correlates with independence and a higher quality of life in older adults. Now, if you're not able to walk at a speed of 2.2 miles per hour, then there is a chance of increased risk of mortality and higher likelihood of cognitive decline, and it could be a potential early warning sign of Parkinson's or dementia, right? So the possibility is greater if you're unable to walk that 2.2 miles per hour. And if that's new news for everyone, please let me know in the chat box. Because walking is so, we don't talk about it as much, because we see all the things on Instagram and Facebook and people like running marathons. Don't worry, you don't necessarily have to do that. You just need to get out and moving. And your heart, brain, and your muscle, there's like this triad. They love when you move, when there's movement. So each component actually reinforces the other, as it relates to well-being. The cardiovascular system strengthens your heart, right? Because your heart's beating faster. It's being challenged in a healthy way. It's improving circulation to all of your body. So not only will your brain and your muscles be happy, but every cell in your body is going to be happy that you're moving, because it's going to get oxygen-rich blood. Improved brain function. I can't emphasize enough that oxygen-rich blood flow to the brain is going to be essential for supporting cell function and your cognition, and then muscles. Your muscles will get stronger. Now, not going to say that they're going to bulk up and you're going to have like big buff arms or big, real cut legs. It's less about the look. It's more about what's inside. It's more about the endurance that's important. So don't be so fixated on what muscles should look like, but more so what their actual function and capability is. Because remember, the key is I want to be able to stay mobile. I want to be able to do the activities I enjoy doing, and I want to decrease my risk of falls, especially as it relates to the muscular system. Okay, so warning signs. Now we're talking about exercise, and it's like, okay, this is good information, but here are some telltale signs that I want you to look at, evaluate in yourself, your significant other, family, or friends. These could be warning signs that you maybe need to talk to your healthcare provider about, and take a closer look at what might be going on, and make sure that you are incorporating safe movement in this. So we talked about slower walking speed. Now listen, especially if it's hot outside, I'm gonna walk slow. I'm gonna move slow. That's okay. But can I, if I needed to, can I walk 2.2 at a speed of 2.2 miles per hour? Right? taking longer, taking longer to cover like a familiar distance. So let's say you used to walk around the block, walk around the mall, and then you've noticed over a course of weeks or months that, hey, ooh, I'm getting winded. This is really like, I'm not able to walk as much as I used to. That is what is really important. Yes, and with transition, so struggling to raise from chair or navigate stairs. Um, we like to take the elevator, we do, but are there times where maybe you could take the stairs just to work yourself out a little bit more? Because but if it ever comes to the point where it's like, you know what, I used to be able to take these stairs, now I just simply can't at all, or I'm getting really winded and really tired going up these stairs. Those might be early warning signs that you need to talk to your healthcare provider, because what's going on where you no longer have the same endurance, the stamina, or maybe it's even painful going up these stairs, and then balance changes. Maybe you're needing to hold on to rails more often when you're going up a couple stairs, or find yourself losing your balance more often and you're needing support. So these might be actual warning signs that you should talk to your healthcare provider about, because there might be signs that something else is going on. Now, when we talk about exercise, and I will say this, kind of the general rule of thumb when it comes to movement is exercising at least 30 minutes a day for most days of the week. So 3 to 4 days a week at minimum for 30 minutes is what is recommended. Now, you don't have to do all the 30 minutes at one time. You can break those up 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and 10 minutes, but just movement, right? But what I'm talking about here, I talked about the warning signs, things you need to look out for. Now, here's some things that we as healthcare providers do. We do this in our office settings, and then also in home health. The physical therapists do a lot of this. So there's something called the tug. So timed up and go. How long does it take you to stand from a chair and walk 10 feet and return to sit down? So you can do this at home. So when you have some time today, sit down in a chair, get up, walk 10 feet, return back and sit down. Does it take more than 12 seconds to do so? If so, there might be if so, then that's something you want to talk to your healthcare provider about, because how can you improve that timing? Because if you're delayed more, it's a indicator that you will for some of those other issues, increased risk for falls, cognitive decline, and other things. There's also the 30-second sit to stand. So count how many times you can stand up fully and sit back down in 30 seconds. So that's kind of this up, down type of motion, right? Sitting to standing, sitting to standing. And if you're not able to do it at least 8 to 10 times repetitions, that might be a signal of decreased strength. And these are ways to quantify it. We use these as mobility assessments, and so we're able to quantify these things. And there's something called a single leg stance. This is how long can you stand on one leg. Now, if it's less than 5 seconds, that suggests balance concerns and it should be addressed. So you definitely want to talk to your healthcare provider. So these are things that you can do at home. You, your husband, your wife, your aunt, if you have some concerns about someone in their mobility, or that they're getting weaker, or just like, let's check this out because you've been using your cane a little bit more often, or you're not able to travel these stairs more often. Any concerns about mobility, these are home mobility tests that you can do. And then you can go back to your healthcare provider and say, hey, you know what? Mom did the tug test and it takes her 20 seconds to do this, or, those type of things. But these are objective tools that healthcare providers use to help assess where people are, so we can help them with a plan to improve their mobility. Now, here's some other times when you need to seek medical attention when it comes to movement. Maybe you're having sudden changes in mobility or balance, falls or near falls, pain. Pain is something we haven't touched upon yet, but pain definitely can limit movement. And now here's one thing: if I like stub my toe and like I just, it's an acute injury. Okay, I might not be able to do much that day because I stubbed my toe. But if there's been no immediate injury, or maybe you had an injury that was like several months ago, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about what's going on. I know we can all have aches and pains here and there and they'll come and go, but it's something that's consistent, and so consistent that it's decreasing your mobility. We need to explore that. Like, what's going on with with your hip, what's going on with your knees, what's going on with the back. It's important that we assess that because we can't improve your mobility until we take care of those the underlying pain, because you're not going to want to move. Our body's very smart. When we feel pain, our body doesn't want to do it. Also, increasing fear of moving or leaving home. So are you someone who's like, I'm actually afraid of being out somewhere and having to walk so much because I don't think that I'm going to make it, or I'm fear of falling. Those are things that we also want to know about too, and any depression or anxiety related mobility limitations. So maybe, and what came first, the depression, anxiety, or the mobility limitation? Either way, they do go hand in hand. So we call that a comorbidity. So we want to help you. So please make sure to talk to your healthcare provider, because don't feel like, oh, I only go to the healthcare provider because, my blood pressure's up or my blood sugar or my cholesterol. Like, there has to be a problem. We want to get ahead of the problem. And it might be something very subtle, like, you know what? I've just been a lot more tired, a little tired lately, or not able to move as much. It might not, obviously, doesn't sound like an emergency room visit, but it is something that we definitely want to take serious, because your health is, and the longevity of your health is something that's extremely important. And we won't know unless you chat with us. There's also, as I mentioned, mental health. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Mobility declines can help. Difficulty with moving creates practical and psychological barriers. You can get depressed from that. If you're not able to move around, it can be depressing. Um, there's a lack of confidence. It could contribute to social isolation because you're having difficulty moving. You don't want to go out there and everyone's like, oh, why is Alice moving so slow, or feel like you can't enjoy the social activities. And so because of you fear that, you don't participate, which can lead to social isolation, which can further worsen the anxiety and depression. And we don't want to do that. And just the mental health impact, increased risk of depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. Mobility can help combat these things. But again, if you're having some challenges with mobility, talk to your healthcare provider. Let's identify what the barriers are. If there's something that we can help you with or fix, or some in that sense, or address, then we can get you back into a space where you can actually participate in the movement. And then when you're participating in movement, you can offset all of these things that we're talking about here: chronic disease, depression, anxiety, falls, and because this is a part of the breaking the cycle of these things is critical for overall well-being. And it's never too late to get started. So let's get into some recommendations. So I think, and if someone mentioned it in the chat box also, 115 minutes. So that's 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Okay, that's, let's see, weekly aerobic activity. That's kind of like walking, swimming, things that get your heart rate up. So at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity each week. Now, that might be too much for people to start with, and that's okay, but that could be a goal for where we can go to. Also, strength training. So cardio, and let me break this down. So there's cardio. When you exercise, there should really be three components of your workout. Cardio, that aerobic, like walking on the treadmills, going for a jog, riding a bike, those type of things. Then there's strength training days. So this is a resistance. It could be weights, it could be canned goods, it could be a resistance bands, but resistance at least twice a week, so you can work all your major muscle groups, your arms and your legs. And then there's flexibility and balance. So dedicated sessions where you're working on your range of your motion, your balance and stability. But all three of these are important to movement. So many times I see people only focus on one, cardio, the walking, and that's a great place to start, but do not leave out these other two components of movement. Though they all play an important role and they all work together. Now let's get into some strategies, some low impact movement strategies. So, and these are gentle movement options. Resistance bands. Resistance bands are those bands that can exercise. They're kind of like, if you think like a big rubber bands. And yoga, you can do chair yoga. This improves flexibility and reduces stress. Tai Chi, that's a type of movement and exercise where it enhances the stability of slow flowing movements that can strengthen your core muscles. Aquatic exercises, this is also important. And it's also easier on the joints. So anyone who has problems with their their joints, or it's like, you know what, it's hard on my knees, it's hard on my hip. The buoyancy of the water is important. I actually, I've done this myself. I've had surgery and had to do some physical therapy. I got in the pool and then I just walked the lap of the pool. And part of it is I was able to get the walking done. It was easier on my joints because of the buoyancy of the water. And believe this, you actually get a much intense workout in the water because of the resistance of moving against the water. So those are actually great activities, aquatic exercises, and then walking programs. So you can develop and this is where it's good when you have a walking group you can walk with. So you can, it helps you with your posture. You want to make sure that you have on proper footwear and that you're familiar with the terrain. So just be mindful. Walking on grass, walking on cement, walking on the street can have an impact on your foot when you're walking. So just be mindful of that. But these are safe and effective options for maintaining mobility without stressing your joints. More on some joint pain, because this is a big one. This is a big one. Again, those water-based activities or exercises are important. Seated modifications. So many exercises that you do, we can adapt those to perform while you're sitting. So for example, let's say I'm doing, I don't know, some side stretches and maybe my balance isn't quite there. I can actually sit in my chair and still get that stretch from the side, right? So those type of things. Anywhere where your balance might be impacted, you can, instead of a sitting position, you can do, instead of a standing position, you can do in a sitting position to avoid strain and pain on your joints. And then as you get stronger and with the consistency, you can actually go from a seated to a standing position. And then also it's important to incorporate heat and cold therapy. I don't know if anyone on here has tried that before, but applying heat before exercise can actually kind of improve flexibility, and cold afterwards can reduce the inflammation and the pain that you're feeling. And these are more, I don't have to take a Tylenol or Motrin. So these are non-medicinal adaptations that you can do to alleviate some of that joint pain or prevent some of that joint pain while you are being active. And here's some movement snacks. So let's say I don't have access to a gym, or I don't have 30 minutes, Nurse Alice, to go and exercise in a dedicated amount of time. There are some things that you can do, short bursts of activities throughout the day. Remember I said 30 minutes of activity in a day, you can do 10 minutes, and another 10 minutes, right? So I call these movement snacks, and they can help. So they can boost your energy when fatigue strikes. So this morning, I wasn't fatigued, but I was just a little stressed and bothered with some of my kids' stuff. So I went for a quick walk. It was about 10 minutes. This reduces stress during those tense moments. It can improve, get you those quick endorphins release to kind of alleviate some of that anxiety or stress or depression you're feeling. And it was good for my joints and for muscle activation because it got me out and moving. And need I even say that I was outdoors, getting sunshine, fresh air, vitamin D, all of those. There's some other benefits to it as well. But here are some examples of some sample movement snacks. So kitchen counter push-ups. So while waiting for, maybe you're in the kitchen cooking something, right? While you're waiting for the water to boil or you're making your coffee to brew, do 5 to 10 gentle push-ups against your counter, right? Okay, you're in the kitchen anyways. You're waiting for the water to boil, so why not, right? Waiting for the coffee to brew, so why not? I got a couple seconds. Might as well make the most of my time while I'm there. Commercial break balance. This one I use a lot, and I also recommend this to my patients a lot, and especially if they're in the hospital. I'll have patients who are in the hospitals. They're not confined to their bed, but in the hospital, if you're not sitting in your bed, you're either sitting in a chair, so you're not really active as much unless you're getting up and walking around. But I ask people, I say, you know what, practice standing on one leg during your TV commercials, holding onto a chair if needed for safety. So during commercial breaks, you can do you can, raise your knees. You can, even if you have, now this is a drink that I have, but you can use like canned goods. You can like literally do a couple raises like this. You can do some pull-ups, some, things like that to work your muscles, to work your legs, kick your leg out while you're sitting in the chair. And if you can't keep track of, just like, well, I'm gonna do these during the commercial. I'm gonna sit down and watch my my show and I'm gonna, do these activities during the commercial. So you can kind of estimate how much activity that you do. And then also seated stretches. So while reading or watching TV, you can gently stretch your neck, your shoulders, or your tensions to release stress. Every so often, if you're, and especially for people who sit at a desk for long periods of time, you got to move. You got to move. Your muscles, when your muscles contract, um, that kind of is what helps kind of push blood forward throughout the body. Most people notice it in their feet, ankles, and legs, especially if you're sitting for a prolonged period of time. It's just like, oh, you know what? My ankles are swelling a little bit. And how can I tell? Because when I take my socks off, I can see the imprints. That's because your muscles aren't contracting. Those calf muscles aren't contracting while you're sitting at your desk. So kicking your feet out, doing knee raises while you're seated, important again, and also doing stretches. Stretch your legs out while you're sitting there, but move them around. Um, and just on the topic of circulation, we talked about how movement is important to prevent cardiovascular disease. It also helps prevent blood clots, especially if you're sitting stagnant for a prolonged period of time. You should be moving, even on airplanes, right? You should be moving, kicking your legs out, getting up, standing, stretching. I know we're in a limited space there, but these are all sample movement snacks that you can do, whether at home, on an airplane, but things that kind of get you moving when you're in any period, when you have some time, and then when you're in a space where, you know what, I'm sitting for a prolonged period of time, I need to get moving. And the most important part of this, we're talking about movement and activity. I don't want to be so prescriptive because everyone, especially based depending on your station in life and what chronic conditions or past surgeries you had, everyone's a little bit different. So your exercise plan, we give some guidelines, right? 30 minutes a day, most days of the week. We give some samples here, but finding out what are you most passionate about? What do you enjoy doing? What does your body allow you to do right now, considering any limitations you may have, but also consistency. Consistency is key. So it's real important, especially if you could do this in small community groups, having an accountability partner. This is very helpful. And, developing these new habits can lead to sustainable routines. So if you have, let's say I have some family friends who he's on dialysis 3 times a week. And the dialysis days can be very exhausting. But after his dialysis, he takes a nap, eats something, and when he gets up, he makes it a point to, you know what, on the days that I have dialysis, I'm going to do these activities. And he makes those are non-negotiables for him. Tracking progress with a simple app or a journal. Now there's an app for everything on our phones, or you can take notes. And they're free apps too, but keeping track of your progress is something that's important because we can't trend what we don't track. And when people come to see me as a healthcare provider in my office, they're like, and I'll say, how's your exercise been? And then it's kind of like a vague recall sometimes, and oftentimes it's not actually accurate because then the husband will say, well, no, she didn't do that. It was really this, remember? And it's so to avoid all that, let's be accountable. Let's track what we're doing. So then you can have, when you have conversations with your provider about your activities, you're accurate. And so, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, because losing weight can also be helpful with our mobility, with our decreasing risk for cardiovascular disease and decreasing joint pain, it's important to track what you're eating and also how you're exercising, so you know if what you're doing is working, if you're making progress. And then I think we'll say the most important thing again is finding activity that's generally enjoyable. Listen, I love the hula hoop. Hula hoop that's some cardio. If anybody on here is interested, try getting a hula hoop. And that'll give you a workout, really. I mean, you'll be up, it'll help with your balance, it'll help with activity, and it's really a cardio. But I said that to say it's fun. I know it's not like the traditional activity, but something that I enjoy doing. Gardening, that could be considered movement and activity. So just realize that you don't always have to go to a gym, get on the treadmill, all of those things. You can just grab a couple friends and go walking around the mall. We used to do that at Baldwin Hills with the Soul Steppers. We used to walk around. Now they still do walking in other activities, but in another location. But having a group to hold you accountable, it's fun. There's fellowship, there's friendship, people to hold you accountable, gives you something to do, helps you with a sense of purpose, and it's good for your mind, body, and soul. So all those things can be really helpful and inspiring and keep you on that track of being consistent. Now, there will be barriers, and so it's important to identify what these barriers are and let's overcome them. Is there fear? If if you're fearful of how this will feel or what I'm going to do it supervised. Talk to your healthcare provider, and you can build up the intensity of it over time. Talk to your healthcare provider about pain. Let's try some of those natural things, right? The heat before exercise, cool pack after exercise, but also making sure that there's nothing wrong with your joints before you get to doing these type of things. Fatigue. We're all going to get a little tired, but with consistency, that you will build your endurance. And then motivation. It's hard to start an exercise plan by yourself. It's not saying it can't be done, but it's hard. And so it's always easier when you have a partner, an accountability partner. And listen, you don't even have to know them, but if you know that there's a walking group in your community and it's like, well, I'm just going to go make new friends, right? Life is an adventure, make new friends. There are probably other people out there who don't know the folks either, but they're just joining together because they have a shared interest in living healthy and well. There's lots of benefits and there's lots of power in community. Improving your social connections and reduces isolation, depression. Accountability increases your consistency that you're going to do this. And sharing experience, it helps, be motivational for each other. You learn a lot about people and you can hear the stories and they become motivational. And it's like, wow, if they can do it, I can do it too. You might learn different techniques. Someone might say, hey, you know what? I had a hip surgery too, and then this is what I did, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, wow, you know what? Let me try that. A different technique to do a modified exercise. And then group energy makes movement more enjoyable. It's always more fun when you have friends with you. And I want you to make sure that as you're doing this, regardless of where your starting place is, to please celebrate your wins, regardless how small they are. A win is a win, right? We're taking all of it. Progress isn't always linear. It's important to celebrate your improvements, right? And don't compare yourself. Comparing yourself can be very dangerous. And with social media, a lot of people do that. And you feel like, oh, I'm just not doing enough. You're doing more than you did yesterday. That's something to be very proud of. So maybe you're walking slightly further without resting. That's a win. You need less assistance to stand up. That's a win. You have improved balance with your activities. That's a win. You're sleeping better on the days that you're active. That is definitely a win. Increased confidence in your movement. Love it. And then you have more energy for social activities. A win is a win. And again, not comparing your win to another win because your win is your win. And so here are some key takeaways. Protection. Remember, because we use the word exercise, physical activity, but I'm just going to use the word mobility because it's about being mobile, maintaining our independence as we're moving around in this world, right? Mobility safeguards your independence. It helps with your brain health, your heart function, and your emotional well-being. Mobility is extremely important for protecting your health, as well as timing. It's never too early, it's never too late to improve your movement patterns and your strength. Support. Finding a community is very important. Community and professional guidance can enhance your success and your enjoyment. So finding a community of people who also have an interest in health and mobility and activities and those type of things, and also your healthcare support community, right? That's whether it's your doctor, your nurse, to kind of walk you through some things, maybe your joints, your hips hurting or something's happening, assessing to make sure that there's no immediate danger and that, okay, you know what, this is expected because of this condition, but here's some modifications that you can do so you can still maintain your mobility and your independence. And then consistency. Consistency is the key. I've heard that consistency trumps talent. So now it might be that's a little bit different, but listen, it's okay if you can run a mile in under 8 minutes or so, but that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is that you're consistent, that you do the mile, whether it takes you 9 minutes one day, 12 minutes another day. Doing the mile on a consistent basis is what's most important. So regular actions can compound over time. So this type of mobility over weeks, over months, over years can really improve the quality and the longevity of your life. So I want to leave out today saying that your mobility is a superpower. You have mobility superpower, and movement is necessary for living well physically and mentally. And I want to encourage you all to find a partner, find a community, whether it's with AARP, whether it's with someone at your church, someone with your school, your job, or maybe you just notice that there is a walking group somewhere in your neighborhood. You don't know anyone, but hey, pop on in, stop by, right? I'm sure they'd love to have you, but the goal is to get out, get moving for, again, for a variety of reasons. Muscle strength, cognitive health, cardiovascular health, to offset chronic medical conditions, and just to maintain as much of your independence and your vitality as much as possible. So I'm Nurse Alice. You can visit asknursealice.com. I have some other health articles and tips and exercise and recipes if you're interested. But also, I understand that we will be publishing the video. This presentation will be available for replay, so you can watch it again or share it with your family and friends. And there'll also be an article attached to it with some other information. And I believe the slides will be downloadable for you to share should you want to share the information with anyone else. But it's been a pleasure speaking and presenting with you all. Anton, I'll bring you back in if you'd like to come back in. And then, I don't know, let's see, we had lots of great comments in the chat box. I want to thank so much everyone for joining in. Let's
Yeah.
see.
And I was going to go through them too, because
Oh,
I know one of them was early on. And this is something I think you hit on, but wanted to see if you wanted to provide more information about people who may have some, like this one person says they have a degenerative constant pain in their knee. So should they look at walking, or would that be more damaging? And so people who have, I know one of the slides you talked about, those issues and how you might be able to modify some things.
yes. So there are people who have degenerative joint disorders or disease, and sometimes their cartilage wears away, so it becomes bone on bone. It can be very painful. For people like that, obviously your safety and your balance are extremely important. So when it comes to activity, depending on the severity of your condition, you can try some of those elastic knee braces to give you some additional support while you're walking. Also, I would also recommend some type of modified exercise. The walking in the water, in the pool would probably be best because of the buoyancy of the water. It's less stress on the joints. So you can still walk, right? But you're just walking the length of the pool, but you have that water to kind of keep you afloat so your joints aren't grinding like they might normally would be if you're just walking on pavement. So
Yep.
so elastic brace if you are going to walk outside, but I would recommend the aerobic activities.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Nurse Alice. Somebody did talk about, and this kind of gets to something you mentioned before too, about there's just so many resources available. You have apps on your phone or your device, or smart homes, all that stuff. And someone mentioned that they use YouTube to
Mm.
be able to do some videos as well, some walk videos and other things. So that's another great resource to be able to use.
If I can add
Um,
there, sometimes when you don't
yes.
have community in person, find
Hmm.
your community on YouTube because there will be a video of someone, like usually a trainer or a group activity. And some people also want a little guidance, a little coaching. So there are tons of free exercise videos on there, and you can look them like exercise activities for people with knee problems, and videos will come up. Now, mind you, want to find one that's, will be safe for you. But if you're looking for ideas, YouTube is a great place to go to for inspiration and other community exercise activities.
Yeah. Some people call it YouTube University. I know,
Yes.
because you can learn a lot from YouTube. And you already mentioned about moving. One person mentioned that they're neutralist. Maybe they meant nutritionist. Or I don't know. I'm not sure. Mentioned moving at least 3 times a week for no less than 30 minutes. And you kind of
Yes.
talked about that 150-minute threshold as being important. Um, and then there was one I wanted to get to, things you're recommending. Oh, so there's one question here, and I think it's very important to kind of go through and share with people. But it says, if I go to my healthcare provider with the early warning signs, I will be brushed off with it's expected at your age. So how can someone, really advocate for themselves when they're talking to healthcare professionals like yourself and other people?
So the way I would say that, I would say, before we assume that it's from my age, could we please do some form of clinical workup to make sure it's not some chronic condition that is going unaddressed? Because that's the thing. It's, and I'm sorry that your healthcare provider would say this, because now, as we age, I think we all understand that as we age, unless we're doing something actively to really combat this, we will slow down a little bit. Our joints will be a little more stiffer. Our muscles, do get a little smaller. All those things. Yes, there's a amount of that that's can be contributed to age, but not to the point where it impacts your daily living. Just because you're aging doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to walk around. Doesn't mean that you should have problems with mobility. Shouldn't means that become winded. So these are the things that your healthcare provider should take seriously. And remember, I put those mobility tests on there, the home mobility test, the tug, the sit stand, and I'm going blank on the other one. Do those activities and bring that back to your healthcare provider. And then, so you're incorporating like the science and the tools that they're actually supposed to be applying. And so when you bring that information and say, you know what, I did the sit stand, or I did the tug test, and it takes me more than 12 minutes to do this, and I'm concerned that there's something else greater. Can we look into this? And so you can't just throw it against, say it's just age. When you use those type of tools, it helps to quantify it, because it also might be a way of how, and this is unfortunate, but there's some transparency. When you go to your healthcare provider, when you've not, unless you have objective data and you speak kind of like in general nature, it's hard for us to really understand the impact of it. So we may not realize how significant it is impacting your life. So if you can say, you know what, I used to be able to walk 1 mile every day. Now I can barely get through half a mile. It's quantitative. So there's something for me to really compare to. So I would recommend using those home mobility tests, um, coming with that information, and then just saying, you know what, before we attribute it solely to my age, I would appreciate a clinical or some type of medical workup to make sure we've ruled out any other conditions. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good because yeah, that happens to a lot of people.
Yes.
Um, and so there was I know we have about 5 minutes left. I wanted to get to this one question as well because this person, Ann, says I'm recovering from spinal fusion surgery in my neck that was done in early May. What are some safe exercises to do in my case?
Okay, so you've had spinal fusion. And I'm just going to share. I've had spinal fusion too, in my neck too. So I just want you to know that I'm also speaking not only as a provider, but as a patient. I've had that before. And so it can limit your movement, right? So first I would say make sure that you're cleared from your physician as far as activity, right? Or like healing, because I don't know, I forget how long she said it was, but just make sure that your
She
surgeon.
didn't say how long.
Okay,
Oh, early May, actually, early May.
so May, June, July. Oh, so it's only been 2 months. You need to get cleared medically first, right? Get cleared medically, then make sure the doctor has said, or the surgeon says like, okay, your surgery is healed. Now you can resume activities. So, because we don't want to disrupt anything that's been done. And then also I would ask for some type of physical therapy. Because then there could be medically guided activities to help restore and preserve some of the movement in your neck. And so that's helpful. And then with those two things, then, long as you're surgically or medically cleared, they're going to tell you what limitations that you have. But and I don't want to assume that I know exactly where you are, but once you've been surgically cleared with a spinal fusion, literally your activity can be as much as you can tolerate. But the key thing here is don't do it prematurely. You want to make sure everything's healed and you're cleared from the surgeon to resume normal activities. But with necks, it's the rotation of your necks, kind of the up and the down of your neck, those type of things, and the rolling of your neck as much as possible if you can maintain those activities.
Perfect. And then last one is about muscle loss. Is it reversible? Um,
Yes, muscle loss is reversible. Um, it is. Now, um, is there more to that question, or was that
what does the process look like? If so, what does the process look like? And it might be, yeah, well,
okay?
yeah,
So
that was the question.
Okay, and it was muscle. So muscle loss. So as we age, right, there is a certain part of it that is age related, and some of that can be a challenge to regain. But physical activity can definitely, especially and not just cardio, but the muscle strengthening. The muscle strengthening is what will cause our muscles to enlarge, get bigger, get stronger. So when people do exercise, Antoine, a lot of what I see is people doing cardio. They're doing the treadmill, they're doing the walking, the
Hmm.
swimming, the bike riding, but they don't do the resistance. So really, with weights, it can be machines or it can be free weights or it can be those resistance bands. But the way to combat muscle loss is with resistance. That it's the lifting, the resistance exercise, and that's what can help with that. It's recommended like with your activity that you do, and let me just say in this way. So at least 3 to 4 days a week of 30 minutes of cardio, at least 2 days of resistance activities, and then there's the balance and stretching. So at least 2 days a week of the resistance. If you can do more, that's great. But that is one of the best ways to combat muscle loss.
Perfect. I think that, and other comments that people made about taking you up on hula hooping. Somebody mentioned pickleball and some other things that they do, and just a
Oh,
lot of thank yous as well in the comments in the chat from for you for the information that you shared in today's session. So I think we're getting towards the end of
mhm.
our session today, Nurse Alice. Any final words that you would like to leave for the group?
Yes, I want to encourage everyone to start somewhere. You don't have to make a big announcement to your family or friends. And, I think some of times we're embarrassed that we've kind of let ourselves go. Not saying that you have, but I've definitely done that before. And I know other people have. It's okay. It's okay. Everyone starts somewhere. You have to crawl before you walk, but you're not doing this to impress other people. You're doing this for yourself. So I would just say uh the best thing you can do is to get started and to choose something that you enjoy doing, because that's gonna help with the consistency.
Yes. Thank you so much again, Nurse Alice. For everyone, again, this is a Healthy Living series with Nurse Alice Benjamin. We'll be doing this every fourth Tuesday. The even number months are when we'll be doing them in person at the Crenshaw Family YMCA on 3820 Santa Rosalia Drive in Los Angeles. And then the odd number months are when we'll be doing them on Zoom, like this month, July, the seventh month. So the next time we'll have a Zoom session like this will be the fourth Tuesday at 10 a.m. in September. You can find that information dropping the link to where you can find that information in the chat right now. And we just, again, want to say thank you to Nurse Alice for this session. This is something that she was really excited to do. And so we finally were able to make this a reality. This session is being recorded. We will put the recording on our YouTube page, and also we'll be connecting it to a blog page that Nurse Alice mentioned before, where she's providing very similar content, but expanding it a little bit more because it's a blog, and you'll be able to put the video and the content together and really start to get to moving. No pun intended, but it is. So thank you again, Nurse Alice. Thank you to everyone who was here this morning and participated. And we hope that you have a great rest of your day.